Welcome to Larry's Library. This week we're taking a look at Wika, the deluxe hardcover. Now this one is a really nice, really oversized hardcover. It's nearly as tall as an absolute, and it's actually wider than an absolute. It's 232 pages. It's by Titan Books, and this one has a cover of $39.99. I got mine at InStockTrades.com for $29.99, and it's still available as of the time of this shooting, and not just at InStock, but a lot of other places too. Yeah, this appears to be the first English printing was in 2021, I think, and it seems to be still in print. But yeah, this was originally French, and it's been translated into English, and so it's kind of hard for me to do some research on. I tried to do some, and if I could read French, it would probably be very helpful, but I cannot. So yeah, so I can't tell you if it's an original graphic novel. I mean, in the English language, the English printing of it, it sure seems that way. It may as well be, because it does seem to be a one and done. I don't think anything came before it, and it has a nice ending, nice solid ending. So for all intents and purposes, for us, it's an original graphic novel. Now looking at some of the extra material in the back, it shows some covers, and they're in French language, so I'm not sure what it said on all of them, but it makes me think it may have come out as 3 trade paperbacks, 3 soft covers originally. Not sure. They may have been individual comics, then collected in trade, and then ending up with this nice oversized edition. Not sure about that. Maybe some of my viewers from that area, from France or Europe or wherever, that are familiar with this artist and writer and these comic books, you may be able to tell me in the comments below what format this came out as originally, because I'm not sure. Whatever its origins, I'm glad I snagged it. I actually saw this book. I saw Jess of Omnidog's Vault show that he got it, and he flipped through it a little bit. He hadn't read it yet, so he didn't do a full review. But I thought the art was so spectacular that I had to get it, so I kind of blind bought it, or nearly blind, and I'm glad I did. So this is written by Thomas Day, who I believe is also French, and he's written, I think this is his first comic book work, but he has written like 15 novels or something, mostly sci-fi, I believe. And the art is by Olivier Ledroit. Perhaps Ledroit? Not sure. I tried my best to look up the proper pronunciation of these, but it was difficult. His art is spectacular. So this is high fantasy in a sort of steampunk world, which is a new wrinkle on a fairy tale, an adult fairy tale very much, but in sort of steampunk trappings, but also with all of the races and all the fantasy races that we're used to seeing in like Lord of the Rings and that sort of thing. We've got fairies and elves and goblins and kobolds, wolfmen, almost everything except humans. No humans. It's a real hodgepodge of mixtures of various sources, and a few that I've noticed, and probably a lot more that just went right over my head I didn't get. But there are elements of Norse mythology. They have the world tree, which is very much like the one in Norse mythology, and a lot of stuff from Irish and Gaelic folklore, especially with the fairies and the elves and whatnot. Their afterlife, the afterworld, is called the Sid, or at least I was pronouncing it in my head the Sid for a long time. It's S-I-D-H. So I looked that up, and it's actually Irish folklore, Gaelic, and it's actually pronounced she. Now when I looked that up, the information I got suggested that this was a fairy mound, basically like the thing the fairies live in. But here it's treated as like an afterlife. So when someone dies, they go to the she. So the story is about a Duke and Duchess have this child, and that's Wika. Wika's the baby. At the beginning of this, she's like 9 months old, and they're grand fairies, which are like the most powerful iteration of fairies in this world. And this bad guy named Oberon invades and like destroys their castle and kills her father rather, and presumably her mother. You think that at the beginning anyway. Try not to give too many spoilers here, but the plot is a little confusing and a little hard to follow in some spots, and I had a little trouble with that. But the art is so spectacular and so detailed. You will be lost in these big, beautiful pages for a long time. Just looking at all of the intricate detail art. I mean, just look at these scans. It is some incredible work. And it had to be a lot of work. I mean, every page is a masterpiece of detail and intricate little workings of things. It's hard to describe and easier just to show. But it's some spectacular stuff, and not to be missed. If you're a fan of fantasy art, you probably are going to want to get this. Yeah. And at the price they're asking, it's a pretty good deal. 232 pages. It's a pretty good size. I actually wish it was a little thicker, though, because in the story, she is smuggled away from the burning castle, not to give too much away, as a 9-month-old baby, and she has to sort of hide her heritage and what she was and live in this city as more of a commoner for a time. And I really would have liked to seen more of that time in her life fleshed out. I wish they could have spent another 20 or 30 pages just on that alone. I would have been very happy, because it is a steampunk universe. So they have muskets, they have firearms, there are cannons, siege engines, there's airships, there's these things they call tanks, dwarven tanks, which are actually giant robots that the dwarves operate, with levers and things, and it has cannons on them, and it's really something else. And all of these different factions of elves and fairies are in this massive war for a long time, and I'm just not even going to tell you much of the plot, because it'll really ruin it. It's a fairly mature book. There's a little bit of sex and nudity in it, nothing super graphic, but it's definitely not for kids, not for young kids anyway. And yeah, it's really something to see. It's a really ambitious work. I think it's flawed in some areas for me, and I wonder how much of that would be if I could read French and I read it in the original French, and this is a translation to English. I wonder what is lost in that, and that may be why some of the plot points I'm a little unsure of, like the whole deal with her mother and what happened there. I got to go into it, but if you've read it and you understand exactly what happened with her mother, let me know. We'll talk about it in the comments. That'd be great, because I'm a little unclear on that. But yeah, it's pretty spectacular. There's a fawn character, and fawn in this sense is like Pip the Troll in the Marvel Universe. His bottom half's like a goat. He's got horns, and he's a hero in this. He has an axe that has 2 blades that spin, and there's a little analog meter, I guess, that shows power level. I don't know. It's wild. There's lots of wild melee weapons like that. Swords with little analog meters, and they have like electrical effects and whatnot. I loved it. Like I said, I wish they had spent more time detailing how that stuff works, and they really don't at all. They don't even address it. You just see it visually, and it's spectacular, but you're wondering, wow, what's going on with that? The tech geek in me and the weapons geek in me want to know more about that. I really do. That's why I think if they had spent more time in the part where she's living as a commoner in the city, we could have probably got into more of the tech a little bit and explained how that world's technology works. But that's not the focus here, and that's cool. I can live with it. It's still pretty great work altogether. And there are sort of 2 endings that go on here. And I'm not going to tell those, of course. That would be a major spoiler. But you get the one, and that's pretty satisfying. And it alludes to some major stuff that happens after. And then you think you're done. You turn the page, and there's another ending. It's a little happier. So, yeah, it's a lot going on here. And it probably bears multiple readings. And I'll probably go back. I'll probably revisit this again. Which I don't reread a lot of books, especially comic books. But I see myself probably doing that here, if nothing else, to try to understand a little bit of the plot that I kind of didn't get on the first reading. But yeah, for me, I'd give this 8 out of 10. Maybe if I read it again, I might go higher. I don't believe it's possible for me to go lower, not with the spectacular level of artwork. It's really something else. It's just a feast for the eyes and the senses. It really is. Yeah, it's good. Pick it up, order it. At the discounted price of $29.99, this is a no-brainer. This is a must-have. It's also one of those nice books where you don't have a dust cover. The art is right there on the boards, and it has a nice glossy finish, so it's going to hold up for many, many years. It's a really good work. It's cool. Wish I knew more about it and knew more about the artist and the writer. And I wish there was more information out there in English that's been translated. There's a lot of videos on YouTube interviewing him, the artist. Probably some with the writer too. I haven't looked too hard for that, but it's probably out there. But again, most of them are in straight up French. Yeah. So anyway, it's good. If you like high fantasy, if you like steampunk worlds, pick this one up. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me, easily. So if you like this kind of content, you want to see more, hit the sub button, bell notify yourself, hit the little bell so you get notified every time I make a new one. If you really like my stuff and you want to help support me, I do have a Patreon. There's no levels or anything like that. If you want to give me $1 or $2 a month, that'd be awesome. But if not, hey, I'll take your subscription either way. Come on back for more, and I'll see you next week.